Hello, everyone, and welcome to the official New Japan Pro Wrestling English podcast. My name is Chris Charlton. The at-home sessions continue, and returning from their respective home offices, Gino, Gambino, and Kevin Kelly. Don't trip over yourselves. So, Kevin first.
Hey, it's great to be with you once again, Chris. Gino, glad to see that, as we have video that we're able to see each other as we do this podcast. Gino, you haven't gained that much weight.
Well, look, it's getting worse. That's the problem. This isolation, these packets of chips. My dad feeds me. He's a feeder. This is the problem.
Yeah, well, it's good to be back with both of you guys. Chris, how's everything in Japan? Are you holding up well?
We're holding up all right. You might be able to hear my kids in the background screaming.
That's fine.
Upstairs. So
my dog is nearby. She's snoring. So you might hear some of her, but that's okay too.
Yeah. Just it's been what 6, 7, because it's been a month since I talked to you guys. So I think we've been doing at-home podcasts for 6, 7 weeks now, and
the best month of my life. I was just realizing I was just singing. You didn't even tell me we were recording. I was singing 2 seconds. We could have had a little concert. Maybe we should have like a New Japan's Got Talent.
Well, we've had this conversation, and within the company, and there might be a little bit of a sing-along chain going on.
I'm singing.
I put up so family and I have been spending a lot of time together, and we had dinner last night, and I put up on Twitter just part of our dinner conversation. What's the best invention? The toilet, toilet or refrigeration?
Well, I saw this, Kevin.
Yeah.
And let me tell you why it's the toilet.
Okay.
So you can get fresh meat, and you can cook it, and you can stave off infection and disease because you can cook fresh meat.
Right.
The toilet, open sewage.
Yes.
That's a whole nother problem.
No one has ever lived. You can live without refrigeration. No one has ever lived without a toilet.
I'm with you.
But I got almost 1,000 votes in a day, and refrigeration won 54 to 44. 54% of people were wrong. So.
But
it's the toilet, trust me.
But also, is this a refrigeration as in a refrigerator that you put in your home, or is it like putting things in cold stone cellars downstairs? No. Is the toilet a flushing toilet, or is it a hole in the ground?
No, it's a flushing toilet. The actual toilet,
right. Well, there you go.
Versus the entire science of refrigeration. So we're talking Freon, we're talking cables, we're talking air conditioning.
Okay.
We're talking food storage, a whole range of applications, but it was simply the toilet, because the plumbing goes without saying, but you can live without a refrigerator in your house. You can live without air conditioning in your house. If you have an open hole in your bathroom, and if you even have a toilet without the trap in it, and those gases are coming up, you're going to want to burn your house down. Forget selling it. You just have to burn.
Let me ask you, focusing on toilets, this could become the toilet podcast. Do you miss Japanese toilets?
Yes.
I mean, I know Chris is fine, but I miss them so much. I miss the heated seats and the bidets.
Yeah.
I'm very upset.
It's it's a wonderful world that we all miss. And, again, this podcast episode is going to be unlike any other, not just for the toilet talk, but also because, Chris, we have come up with, I think, a brilliant idea that everybody gets to participate in.
Right. And nobody's ever thought about it before. Nobody has ever come up with this concept.
Just like us. And by the way, RVD, I want you to know, we were the first ones to use the term Steve Carino virus. Okay.
Absolutely.
So it was if you open up New Beginning in Sapporo, and it's literally the first thing Gino Gambino says.
I remember being backstage. Hey, Kevin said Steve Carino virus. Now, when I'm stealing that, it's mine.
So I set him up for it. I set him up for it because it was such a good line. So so going back into late January, we had it first. So
yeah.
There you go.
So what are we watching, Chris? Talk to me.
Right. Yes. So yeah, well, I thought we'd do a watch along. By the time this goes up, this will be Golden Week. So this is particularly distressing, for me and for us, because Golden Week is like wrestling season. There's usually so many shows every day during Golden Week. So yeah, this show will be going up, right as Golden Week begins, and then I think next week we'll take a little bit of a hiatus so that I can have my own Golden Week. But yeah, so let's watch a match together, and I put it to both you guys. Let's pick a match, pick something that we haven't called before, that we weren't present for, that we weren't in the company for at the time. And Kevin, you chose something that that is important, a little bit topical, perhaps. Where the match you chose?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite matches. It was the G1 2012 finals between Kazuchika Okada and Machine Gun Karl Anderson. I've shouted out Machine Gun over the years about being the 2012 G1 finalist, and so I thought that it was a good time to watch this match, and we'll go back to see the first G1 for Okada and Machine Gun with a rise of his own in 2012. And Chris, you can hopefully explain to me and everybody some of the pomp and circumstance that happens after these G1 shows, because they don't do it anymore, but it used to be this whole parade of, periphery of people and trophies and what have you. So there's a bunch of people and a bunch of trophies, and I'm confused by it. So you can explain it to me so I know who these people are.
All right. Excellent. Well, let's get to it.
All right, now wait a minute. So we want everybody to log in to NJPWWorld.com.
Yes. You want to go to
scroll down to the decades is the easiest way.
That's the way you do it.
I scroll down.
Just type it in.
I would type Kazuchika Okada, Karl Anderson, and it would.
Yeah, I can't spell Okada's first name, so I just do Okada versus Anderson.
And I've gotten good at the decade, and then drop down for the year, and then it brings up the matches that way. But okay, so everybody, I hope you've got your G1 final. What's the date on this?
It is August the 12th, 2012.
August the 12th, because they also wrestled in October. So this is the August the 12th match. This is the G1 Climax Final. Now, just to set the stage, so Okada wins his block, we'll do this when the match starts, because we're not going to commentate the match.
Yeah.
But we'll explain what's going on as we're watching the match. Now, how are we going to start this, Chris? Because I want everybody to need to all be in sync. So is it 3, 2, 1, go? Is it
3, 2, 1, push.
1, 2, 3, die. Doesn't that work?
No, that's
3, 2, 1, push.
That's wrong, Gino. You don't ever go 1, 2, 3. Go.
Noki's fooled me all these years.
I know. It's 3, 2, 1, go.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, look, it's Ozaki.
Yep.
You're very young, Ozaki.
Who's that ham and egger behind him in the suit?
He's, I believe, what's his name? His name escapes me. But he's on TV a lot. And part of Buddy Fight at the time. This was when Bushiroad had officially purchased New Japan in January. And, they were very active as a sponsor before that. So this is the first G1 Climax of the Bushiroad era. And here's the man.
But not only that, Chris, you're spot on. It is the new era of Bushiroad, but we also started seeing over the last couple of years new blood in the finals of the G1. It wasn't the old guard anymore. This was sort of the start of a new era in New Japan.
Well, yes and no. I think you saw sort of it was used as Tanahashi's rise in the middle of the decade, and you had Goto win in 08, then Makabe in 09. Look at that guy; he's really getting into it. But certainly, this was the real rise of Kazuchika Okada, and a very different feel to this, because he had Okada so young, and opposite him Karl Anderson, as we'll see in just a second, the first man to reach the final of the G1, since Rick Rude in 1992. So this was a real different feel to this G1 final.
Now, Okada, of course, had come on the scene, had returned from excursion on January 4th, 2012, and then the Rainmaker shock the next month. So everybody, I think, Chris, was anticipating a rematch between Okada and Tanahashi after Okada won the B block earlier in the night. The A block came down to Karl Anderson versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. So it was all the last night of block was also the night of the finals as well.
Yes, yeah, I was at the show. I was up in the cheap seats, and it was definitely a real headache. You think the G1s you and I have been a part of, Kevin, and it's been a massive hurdle towards the end of that tournament of figuring out the block maths, and if this guy beats this guy and then that guy only does a draw, what's going to happen and all this. And we usually get at least one thing very badly wrong every year. But here, it was all on the same night. So everybody was watching the matches and then trying to figure it out. They put the score sheets on the big screens. And then we were going, okay, so does this mean, and then you finally got the announcement from Ozaki-san that it was going to be a Karl Anderson Kazuchika Okada final, which surprised many. It wasn't the only surprise on this evening either.
Good brother.
Kevin, you said that, it was right. Karl Anderson won his semi-final match that night to go into this main event. I just did some quick calculations thanks to Chris Samsa. Okada's match time during this G1 was 109 minutes, 69 seconds. Karl Anderson, 84 minutes, 71 seconds. So Anderson got it done quicker, but had to wrestle the same night as the final.
Well, so did Okada, but Okada had more time because his match was earlier. I think Karl Anderson went back through the curtain and then turned right around and came back out. If the match listings on Cage Match are accurate.
Yeah.
Was Chris, do you remember if there was a tag team match as a buffer between the end of the block?
Well, there was an intermission. These were the days when we had intermissions in the middle of the event. And that was a big deal because during the intermission, we came back from intermission and then there was somebody has a special announcement and out came Katsushi, I can't even talk. Out came Shibata and Sakuraba. And so that was the real surprise of, Shibata's back after this massive long time. Sakuraba back to pro wrestling after his MMA career. And that was the real shocker on this night. That's always, been one of my favorite things about the G1 Climax the last night. There's almost always a big surprise or a big bombshell happening during that final evening. This year, of course, before the main event, you had Minoru Suzuki beating Okada and laying down that challenge. And of course, Kenta turning and joining Bullet Club. There's so much surprises happening every G1.
By the way, Gino, do you notice the young Tama Tonga in the corner of Machine Gun there?
I absolutely do. What I was also noticing is how does Red Shoes not age? The man looks exactly the same. Is he using some kind of placenta cream? Is there some kind of trick in Japan that we're not getting? Because everyone looks the same, and this is almost 10 years ago.
But Chris, this is good news for you because you'll stay young forever, apparently.
This is great. Yeah, it's a good thing.
Chris should just be happy that no one's watching our videos at the moment.
So who's down there with, who's that ham and egger with Shinpei Nogami? That's the guy from Buddy Fight?
Yeah. And then behind him was GK Kanazawa.
I gotcha.
And if you want to trip and look at some young Red Shoes, you can see him, I think at 99 in the Tokyo Dome. I recently saw he was the war official, and it was him and Taigo Hidori officiating this exploding ring death match with Atsushi Onita and Masahiro Chono.
Tremendous. That's up on World, right?
Yes, it is.
How about Karl Anderson? Look at that. By the way, this was the only time that he ever wore that color scheme of tights and knee pads. It was always black before this. It was always black after this. He had these made just for this occasion. He looks great.
He looks $1 million. I feel like I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it. I like Ryogoku Hall more than I like Tokyo Dome. I think it's a better look. The crowd's more intimate and closer for the matches. I really feel like it's a main event, like hall, stadium, whatever you want to call it.
It's really it's two arenas in one with the sumo seats down close, and then the elevated seating is more of a traditional seat. Chris, you've attended many events there as a fan. What do you prefer? Have you sat in the boxes?
Yeah, I've sat in the boxes. The boxes are a little bit, they're very, very different, and if it's a full house as it usually is in New Japan these days, it is a little bit of a long time to be sitting cross-legged on the floor with three other people. So there is that, but it's a very different atmosphere, and I kind of get how Gino feels, because you are kind of closer to the action. You do have that greater intimacy than you get at the Tokyo Dome. Whereas with the Tokyo Dome,
finish.
It is more of you do get the more of the sea of humanity feeling in the Tokyo Dome as well. So I think they're different. I don't know whether one is better than the other. I think that they're both very different.
What was the crowd like for Okada during this part? Because the Rainmaker shock really put him on the map, of course, and having subsequently dropped the IWGP Heavyweight title back to Tanahashi. Were they thinking flash in the pan? Were they thinking this guy's the future? What were they thinking?
Well, I think at first, of course, when he did first win the title, there was a lot of doubt surrounding him, and it was that first defense against Tetsuya Naito the very next month that made people start to turn the corner. And then during the G1, he really proved himself.
Gun stun.
Yeah, But there was a lot of expectation behind Karl Anderson. He'd been tagging with Giant Bernard for so long, and now he was proving himself as a singles player, had a really good run during the New Japan Cup. So a lot of people were really excited to see whether Machine Gun Karl Anderson could really pull off a G1 Climax level victory. Really, it's hard to say whether one or the other would be a big surprise, would be a big upset. Of course, Okada had won the title once earlier in the year, but neither one of these guys was really the expected G1 Climax final. If you'd have said 1 year before, hey, the final of the G1 Climax 22 is going to be Karl Anderson and Kazuchika Okada, everybody would have laughed, I think.
Right. It was because it was a year removed from Nakamura winning, correct?
Yes.
In 11?
Yeah. It was Nakamura over Tetsuya Naito 1 year before. And this was, again, the G1 where Naito suffered a knee injury earlier. I believe, I want to say it was against Rouge. But that's what really, he kept on going until the autumn. But that's what really did Tetsuya Naito in and cost him nearly a year.
If you think about it, Okada line jumped, as we say, Gino, and he nudged Naito out of his spot, as you see the jumping kick there from Karl Anderson, just making sure everybody's in sync with us here as he's working on the Rainmaker arm. So Gino, Okada was, coming back from excursion, and then all of a sudden here he is as IWGP Heavyweight Champion, and Tetsuya Naito by this point of 2012 finds himself on the outside looking in. Why don't you say something about that?
Well, if you let me, please, if I can finally talk about Bullet Club.
Oh, for God's sake.
You're right. Everyone applauded Okada for line jumping, and what a great moment it was in New Japan history. Then Jay White does the same, and it's everyone boos. Kenta does the same, and they nearly had a riot in the Tokyo Dome. I mean, it's just the hypocrisy of our fans.
Chris, when were the seeds? Because we're Karl Anderson pre-Bullet Club here, as he's going to take Okada over the rail and keep working on that arm. When were the seeds beginning to be planted about Bullet Club? Because it didn't form until May of 13. When did we start to see that?
I think you can probably trace it back. The one big match for me is one I know you recently called in the archives, which was the anniversary match between Prince Devitt and Hiroshi Tanahashi. And you had that thing of, the semi-regular tradition now of the junior heavyweight champion against the heavyweight champion. And it was this real thing, I think, for Devitt of, I can sort of break through the glass ceiling of being a junior heavyweight in a heavyweight's world. And he really sort of, any means necessary, took the fight to Tanahashi. And you saw a real change in his demeanor, I think, from then on. But still, Anderson was very, he was trying to play the game, I think, and you see, you would hear a lot of chants for Karl Anderson. A lot of fans were really, really solidly behind him, and Tamatonga sort of willing him on and supporting him on. And then, of course, it was, he got involved with Tanahashi, would wrestle Tanahashi several more times, was very sportsmanlike. And then it was Don Taku 2012, 2013 rather, nearly 7 years ago, as we were speaking here.
Yep,
everything
it's
changed.
Another Don Taku memory, and because of that, Gino's in Bullet Club, and maybe we can celebrate Golden Week with Gino getting his tracksuit. How does that sound?
Well, I just want to say it is my 1 year anniversary as a broadcaster with you fine gentlemen. Is Don Taku? That was my very first tour as a broadcaster. So maybe you can get a gift for me. Maybe you can go to New Japan shop and buy me a nice 3L tracksuit.
Well, see you, Karl Anderson. Drop kick. That's it. It's over. We can stop recording. The match is over now. He's no way he's going to get back up. So I'm interested. Guys, in finding out, because I had no access to New Japan in the States at this point. You know what I mean? Other than internet reports and things like that. How did you guys, Chris, you were a fan. You got to come see the events live.
Well, I came to Japan in September 2005, and New Japan was always on my bucket list to see live. So I was going to events almost right away. But really, for all of us the world over, New Japan World was such a game changer.
It's fantastic now having New Japan World. Like, you literally just log onto a link and I can watch all the things I missed as a fan when I was younger. So, but yeah, we just pretty much traded tapes or sent links to each other and tried to watch whatever was available at the time, because there really wasn't much.
Chris, I got a question for you. How do these people get these seats up front? These best seats, these plum seats around ringside? Is it the fan club? Is it friends and family? Who's sitting up front?
Lots of, I think that the primo seats very often go to our fan club members, and then perhaps sometimes you might get very, very high ranking sponsors up there at the front. Karl Anderson's really getting his neck worked over.
Yeah, well, he deserved it. After going after the Rainmaker arm. No, you can't like Karl at this point, Gino, because he's not in Bullet Club yet, because Bullet Club hasn't even been born.
I can still like Karl. Karl's a good brother.
He is a good brother.
Well, 3/4 of this main event, if you count the seconds, having very strong Bullet Club ties.
That's true. What about Gato? You haven't even mentioned him. He's in Okada's corner.
I didn't want to interrupt you guys, but there was honestly a split second, and I swear to God that I was watching and Okada walk past Gato, and I went, why didn't Gato attack him? And then I realized they're together.
Yeah.
And it really threw me off.
I thought you were going to say, I realized that Gato is a good sportsman-like individual and would never, ever attack a competitor.
No, not.
He's always looking for coins.
Not ever. Look at this now. Draping DDT here. And.
Oh, boy.
Well, that's it. It's over. Okada wins by count out. Because there's no way Karl Anderson's going to get back up.
Well, no, I mean, that again, you recently called, Kevin, from the archives, the 1983 IWGP final, which was precursor to this G1. And that did end in a count out when Hulk Hogan used that axe bomber off the apron to Antonio Inoki. So there was definitely precedent. People
couldn't believe it. They were shocked. They kept cheering for Inoki, and even Hogan is having to tell them, hey, calm down. This isn't good. And as Karl Anderson gets back in just at the count of 19, there was no comeback.
I'm so jealous, Kevin.
Well,
I'm so jealous you got to call that match. I'm dying to call all the Hogan and Inoki matches from the archives.
It was really good. And Okada, God, he's so good. He's so good, and he's so consistently good.
Well, let me ask a question. I'm watching this now. This is 2012.
Right.
Now, if you look back at some wrestling at 2012, it has not aged well. It's a little bit different to what we're used to now. This could stand up as a main event tomorrow. This is like this match right here. You're watching it. I'm watching it as if nothing has changed, as if this is 2020. Like, the styles of both men are so good. It's mind-blowing to think that this was 2012.
We think a bit of a change as well as that's the DID locked into Karl Anderson, as we're watching here. That you've seen the evolution of Okada's game especially submission. I think that's where you really see how he's changed his style over the years, and stuff like DID and the red ink as well were very sort of Jave influenced holds, because Okada started as a teen in Mexico. And really he's sort of evolved and been a little bit more simply effective with his submission work of late.
I think you see that a lot, and Gino, you might be able to speak to this too as a wrestler. You do a lot when you're younger, and then as you get older, you find that you pare down the moves that you do in a match, and it's you work more efficiently. So
you have to. I don't think you have a choice. As you get older, your body's a little bit more banged up. I mean, you're fighting through your whole career. It's even happens with UFC and boxers. Their style changes to suit how their body feels. So, yeah, when you see some guys slow down and be a bit more methodical. We're seeing it now with Ospreay going into the heavyweight. He's a little bit slower and he's not as fancy, but he's still effective. So that's kind of where you have to go as a wrestler.
Well, this has been just a great match so far. And Chris, what was the vibe in the room at this point? Did people think it was Karl Anderson? Did they think it was going to be Okada? What was the feeling?
It was a real sort of 50-50 feel in the crowd, as I recall. And, you really got that mix of chance, because Okada had definitely earned his fans over the summer. And for Anderson, there was this, he was long tenured, and, he'd been up part of Chaos for a time as well. And I think a lot of people were kind of expecting now that maybe this was Karl Anderson's finally his chance to, there you go, the leg lariat, finally his chance to rise as a single star.
And Karl Anderson gets a near fall here on Okada, the G1 finals from 2012. An exciting time, of course, to be a fan, and a great opportunity in the archives as well to sort of do that chronological deep dive. I've been going back and watching all the big matches I started in 2009 and now have gotten my way up to the start of 2012, just watching them as fans, just to catch up and to get the feeling. There was a reliance on some outside names, but they were really developing the core of this generation now. That has, with Okada's coming of age and Tanahashi still being the ace and Shinsuke Nakamura, Karl Anderson, and then you still had the other names. I laugh at Toru Yano, who was, big time serious mean guy and hadn't quite become the Sublime Master Thief, even though he was stealing titles.
Yeah, he definitely, him during the GBH era, this real sort of hardcore individual. And then I really sort of put that, he was sort of representing that hardcore fight. And then, it was, we brought him up earlier on, but we owe Rob Van Dam for the famous Toru Yano thumbs.
Right.
They wrestled in the Tokyo Dome a few years
I did love when he had stolen the, and now which one is this?
Oh, I always
which one is this?
I always get Deep in Debt. Maybe that is Deep in Debt. I always get Deep in Debt mixed up.
Because he hadn't unleashed Red Ink yet until 13.
Yeah, the Red Ink was something. Yeah, he worked on that for the 2013 G1, and that was sort of part of his public workout video. And that is something that I do miss about the G1 Climax each year. Is that back in the day, a few years ago, you used to get public workouts with with the guys doing little individual things. Honma doing
maybe we should do some public workouts, some online workouts with the three of us.
I'm not working out, but I'll gladly coach you through it, Gino, if you want to.
Let's do it.
One of my favorites.
We can do it live.
There was one where Honma was working on his Kakeshi, so he did a bungee jump Kakeshi. And,
Jesus.
Well, that sounds like a great idea.
Nagato was like kind of do a limbo to escape the Rainmaker. There was a lot of great stuff, and like there's the old classic footage as well. It was part of the documentary with Okada following his most recent G1, and they showed highlights of his old public workout where Gator was with him and he was breaking baseball bats with Rainmakers.
Wow. Yeah. Dude, how about that spine buster? That was freaking awesome.
It was beautiful.
Karl Anderson is so freaking good. He is
it blows my mind.
He's always been one of my favorite wrestlers. And
I think people forget that, Kevin, how good he actually is, because this wasn't a time when New Japan World was available. It wouldn't be the popular time, as a lot of people like to call it, of New Japan. And Karl was so good, and there's so many, like Shinsuke Nakamura, one of my favorites, was amazing in this era. So you're right. Like, I think a lot of people missed out on really top quality wrestling.
And now Karl is cooking, as we say, and going to the top. The reverse neck breaker from the top rope is on the way, but Okada gets hit with it, and I think it's over. Karl Anderson wins the G1, boys. Damn it.
That's not what Wikipedia says.
I know.
You're saying Wikipedia is wrong?
Gino, for a split second, was like, wait, he won?
Why didn't I hear about this?
You think I researched before this? I like to call things on the fly, Kevin. You know.
Yeah, so you're...
if you'd thought that Karl Anderson doesn't remind us enough about being the 2012 G1 finalist, if he'd have actually won it.
Well, you just, again, just hashtag G1 2012 finalist, do a search there, and you'll see all the times that Karl Anderson has posted that. And he and Okada have publicly thanked each other. And, you know, of course, it's good-natured. But the neck breaker, and now it's Okada who's cooking.
No.
And a kick out.
Quite.
Hey, Chris, so as a fan, you were living and working in outside of Tokyo, and
Yes.
then you would travel in. It's a journey for you as a fan to see where you are now. I know it's got to be kind of like bittersweet when you think about it, like you know all the ups and downs as a fan, and now being able to say that you actually work in a company that you were a fan of. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is truly fantastic. It's one of those extra, it's an extra sort of bit of blow. I think for everybody that's working here, I know you, Kevin, and Gino as well, that it's so frustrating. It's so great to be a part of everything and really pumping out all this content at this point in time. I just wish we were. Wish we were wrestling again.
There is not and I'm sure you guys would agree, there is not a day that goes by that I do not think, God, I wish we were back to work. I wish everything was back to normal.
My bank account feels
brother. Yeah, it's again, it's it's something that everybody's dealing with all over the world, and it's that we've never had a situation like this any time in human history. So we can say we all did it together. Chris, maybe you could write another book.
the crone he is.
Maybe your talented brother can draw a book, so then finally your parents have someone to be proud of.
Okay, all right.
the black sheep of the family, Chris Charlton. Now, where are you sitting in relation to the ring, Chris? How high up are you?
I remember I was in the upper deck. I was in the cheap seats this year. I remember that the year before was my first. It was actually the first time I went to a G1 final. Was the year before?
Naito
and Nakamura. Before that, I'd been to 3 or 4 of like the Yokohama shows and the Korakuen shows. The Bernard Driver and really pulling out all the stops, and that was when I think from this point everybody was really, really biting in the crowd. And you had that division. You saw a brief shot there of one of the New Japan superfans, the man with the loudest voice in the world.
Milkman?
Big.
Is there? Am I wrong? Is there possibly a young lion evil ringside? Is that what I'm seeing?
Let's protect names to change names to innocent.
He hadn't fully become evil.
Yeah.
No.
But, again, you'll see a lot of familiar faces at ringside during the various eras. And like I just called the Naito versus Antonio Inoki and the young lion Yuji Nagata there. So it was just, and, Fale as a young lion, and Yo and Sho as young lions, and Jay White, David Finlay. So it's always cool to see how the young lions sort of progress through time.
Well, Farley's trying to convince me that he's down to his young lion weight during this pandemic, during lockdown.
We'll have to see.
He was lean during those days.
Yeah, well, he's claiming he's back to it. So let's see.
Good.
He's been, I think maybe he has been aggressively TikToking, I think, Bad Luck Valley. So maybe he regressed to his young lion age as well. He's become a teenager.
Yeah, well, New Zealand is in complete lockdown. So all the fast food restaurants are
right. That might be the difference maker.
Closed. KFCs they're all closed. So
see what you did?
I ruined everything.
Yeah.
Change the direction, gun stun, no. Rainmaker, gun stun. Hey, I love this. Wow. What an exchange.
So
God.
It's such a good match.
It's so back and forth at this point. Just it's hard to keep talking, isn't it? Like
it is,
you kind of
get mesmerized.
Right? Yeah.
I'm just upset. I don't know if you guys have got the sound going.
I do.
I've not got the sound, so I can.
I'm not watching this match without sound.
Hold on. Oh, that's loud.
Yeah, it jumps up loud. Super loud.
Right, isn't this spectacular? I just got. Oh, there you go. There you go. That was it.
Okada won.
That can't be. No.
I got.
You lied to me, Kevin.
And you see,
look at the crowd.
Everybody's going insane. Yeah, I mean, this was really, I think from the last year as well, you really sort of started to see the crowds really fill up, really explode. A lot of that when Bushy Road sort of took over the company and really put a lot of money into promotion, a lot of effort into promotion.
They flipped really the fan base.
Exactly.
Can I ask a question, Chris? A historical question, because it's something that comes up in my friendship group all the time. When did they ban the banners? There used to be so many banners and flags in the crowd. When was that stopped? Because I used to love the look of that.
Well, I think a lot of these things, and you kind of see one of the things that I love about Korakuen Hall events is those huge fan banners that get unfold over the balcony, and we still get them. I think a lot of those things we used to have the support flags and stuff like that, streamers as well. That does come down to just in part a fan experience thing so that everybody can see properly. Sometimes I think with streamers in particular, it might be an environmental concern as well.
Having spent so many years in Ring of Honor, let me tell you something. I don't miss those streamers. I appreciate the fans' enthusiasm, but my God, it just got to be so much.
They should throw streamers at us at the commentary table, I feel.
Now that would be okay. I'd be fine with that. All right. So Okada wins the G1 and everybody says he's the guy, right? Or was there still some doubt? All right. So was there, as Karl Anderson walks away from the ring and Okada, the presentation, was Okada made by this? Was it the title? How did this help him?
I think it was the all in total, but I really did. Yeah, you're right. I kind of thought at this point, for me personally as a fan, oh yeah, okay, Okada's here to stay. It's not a flash in the pan at this point. Especially as you'll hear a little bit later on. I'm gonna have to put the audio up in my ears because I had this muted. Especially as we'll get what Okada says and what Gedo says in just a little bit about what's going to happen now as the winner of the G1. He really could have sort of changed the picture when it came to what the G1 Climax represents.
And they don't do the...
Yeah, you don't normally see the interviews anymore. And that's something that's different. It used to be the formal interview at the end with the main event winner. And now Gedo's telling him to get off. We don't need you anymore. And I think that was one of two sea changes at the end of this main event. Right, so there was a lot of people.
Chris, look, I would like to do a translation, but maybe
what's he saying?
They were saying that there were a lot of sort of people, a lot of different faces in this G1, a lot of unexpected faces in this G1. But the one that stood at the end was Kazuchika Okada, and this was the famous discussion here and the famous declaration that from now on, because Okada is on a different level, he's going to prove that. And from this point on, the G1 Climax winner would challenge the IWGP champion at the Tokyo Dome.
I love it. I love listening to Gato. I could listen to him all day.
How dare you? He's a wordsmith.
There you go. So he's saying right here now he wants an appropriate place, a fitting place for Kazuchika Okada to move forward in a different stage, and it should be the Tokyo Dome. So from this point on, that's when we got the briefcase, the famous G1 briefcase. What was your guys' favorite G1 briefcase design?
Oh, jeez.
I thought Ibushi's matched his outfit perfectly.
Yeah, I was going to say the same, and I didn't really want to.
But the new one, I thought you were gonna say the one Ibushi originally had that Kenta broke.
Well, that's what I was trying to get there, Chris. Let me speak. Let me have freedom of speech.
Oh, listen, we're recording this, so just say it like you were going to say it, and we'll fix it in post, Gino.
I don't want to say anything now. You've upset me.
You're.
It did take them a little while that the championship became one word. It's been my favorite. It's like Mr. Burns in The Simpsons. The best ship of all is championship.
Never watched an episode in my life.
No.
All right. So what's Okada saying?
He really is saying that you're seeing a true level beyond in Kazuchika Okada, and he will be the center of New Japan Pro Wrestling and make it rain. And it's not going to stop raining because Okada's going to make it rain. And you saw that, I think the development, that was another area where Kazuchika Okada really developed, was being able to speak on his own. And it used to be Gedo every night at this point, closing out the show, closing out the night with Kazuchika Okada. And then gradually you saw Okada gain more confidence in that main event position and send the crowd home on his own by and large.
Did any G1 winner ever take a massive check directly to the bank and try to cash it like that check there? So I'm not sure that's legal tender.
Right, sure. 10 million yen to the winner there, which is
what's that about?
Well, everybody.
Yeah.
Plus, I also don't like I like the new design of the G1 Climax trophy better than this incarnation.
It's one of the most amazing things, and I'm sure you guys have had the same experience, but one of those surreal moments in your life is when you first go to the office in Meguro, and there's just a trophy room with all the G1 Climax trophies and the old New Japan.
They wouldn't let me touch anything.
I know, because you were going to steal everything.
I was probably going to fall over and break them all, let's be honest.
That's true. They're probably all wired, so if you touch one, it's like alarms going off.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Security rushes in.
Yeah.
It's the tradition for the G1 winner now to get the main event spot to face the IWGP Heavyweight Champion at Wrestle Kingdom. But this was the beginning, sort of this era, and you get the 10 million yen check. You get some warm beers, and I love it. This has been fun. This was a great idea.
It was a great idea
to watch this match
and I
together.
Have to say, Kevin, it was a tremendous idea that nobody has ever had in the history of podcasting.
Right.
And
we thought of this all on our own, the watch along.
Yeah.
But I'm sure every other podcast is going to jump on and do this now. And you'll hear it everywhere. But remember, we did it here first on the official New Japan Pro Wrestling podcast.
There you go. Wonderful.
Hosted by Chris Charlton.
Well, so as I said, it's coming up to Golden Week here, and I think we've been going every week on this podcast. So maybe we'll take a little bit of a breather between episodes and figure out what's going on. But there's so much still going on New Japan World, on NJPWWorld.com all the time. The New Japan Together project is still rolling on and will keep rolling on until the next time we have events in person to bring you, which is all something we're very excited to finally get going. But
I'm recording like 7 or 8 matches a week.
It's insane.
And they're not, there's no, it's not undercard
Yeah.
matches, folks. These are main events or high profile matches. I'll let you in on a little, and everybody will, I'm sure, probably be seeing these if not by the time they hear this podcast or very soon. From August 1st, 2014, 3 matches from that particular night's G1. And it was at Korakuen Hall, AJ Styles versus Minoru Suzuki, Katsuyori Shibata versus Yuji Nagata, and Nakamura versus Ishii. So those 3 matches were 3 of those matches were in this most recent batch that I called. And New Japan World keeps just sending me stuff. And I'm like, hell yes. Thank you.
I haven't heard from anybody.
Some work.
No one from the office has contacted me. Do I still have a job or?
They don't know you work there.
I knew it was something. Hey, who's the fat guy next to Kevin?
It's okay because, again, there was a cat with a mask with me for a little while and everybody looked at him like, who's this weirdo? And now it's you. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You've been there a year.
Say it again.
You've been there a year.
Yeah.
What are they doing? What are they doing for Golden Week this year? It's all shut down.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we're obviously everybody's working from home in this environment right now. So there will be web content. I think definitely njpw.co.jp if you're a Japanese speaker, njpw1972.com for the English. There'll be that stuff. I'm sure there will be. We'll have stuff in the tank for the YouTube channels and for New Japan World. And it's going to be so surreal to have a Golden Week in Japan without professional wrestling, without live professional wrestling anyway.
Right.
But we will definitely find a way. And fingers crossed, everybody stays healthy.
Gino, go back in front of the mic. Stop drifting off. Gino's making faces because we're all on camera here. But it's a different year. I mean, I don't know whether or not things will be always the way they were, or it's going to be a new form of normal going forward. But we're prepared and ready for whatever that might be. And I just know that we're always going to do our best to be your voices for New Japan Pro Wrestling in some shape, form, or fashion, whatever that might be. And whenever we get back to work calling action live or pre-recorded, however it might be, will be an exciting time.
Absolutely. And we'll be back with you then. And we'll be back with you very, very soon on the NJPW official English podcast. Until next time, go kienyo, sayonara.